To get us situated into building the bridge, I just want to read a short excerpt from chapter 1 in Sleeping Under the Bridge. I used to feel adored by my father and by his friends and colleagues who treated me like a beautiful princess. I would dance around Westfield shops with all my long blonde hair turning medium brown and sparkling blue eyes while weaving in and out of the trousers and shirt section of my dad's store. When I was bored, I came out of the back room and wandered through the shops. Owners would come out and say hello. Sometimes I would walk past big, tall people, and I'd hear them talk about me. They said something like, "Do you know who she is?" The other would reply, "Oh, yes, that's the owner's daughter." "Oh, she's a cutie." On hearing that, I would twirl around and feel on top of the world, wherever that may be. I used to feel happiness on that odd occasion when everything fell into place. I used to feel alive. I used to feel. Slowly these feelings all faded away till I feel nothing, nothing at all. And then just a short section from chapter 1 in Building the Bridge. But hope existed in me. It unfurled like the first sliver of dawn breaking against the night, a quiet promise that grew, stretching through every vein, filling the empty spaces I once feared would remain hollow. Where there once lay an unyielding void, now a force awakened, surging like wildfire, unstoppable, alive. Each breath was no longer just survival, it was momentum. Each heartbeat a drumbeat of purpose, pounding away hesitation, forging conviction. Fear, once the shadow in the chest, dissolved into resilience, into fire. I once felt nothing, now I feel strength. As the Cessna hit an air pocket, my stomach lurched, mirroring the turmoil inside me. The plane dipped and shuddered. The roar of the engines momentarily drowned out my wavering thoughts. I gripped the side door, feeling the cold hard metal on my arm, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun streaming through the window. I was leaving behind the familiar, thrust into the unknown. Adventure called to me, but loneliness trailed along, a beast I didn't want to face. The vast expanse of the landscape stretched below, a patchwork of green and brown, promising solace and isolation. I set my sights on escaping Sydney, a city cloaked in shadows and secrets. The secrets were a labyrinth of hurried footsteps, fleeting glances, and whispers of pain in a disconnected world. Amongst the towering buildings looming overhead, casting long dark shadows that swallowed the night, was a place where my secret festered in the cracks of the pavement. I found my opportunity to escape the madness, hoping to find peace in the remote wilderness, a place where my father could never find me. In the co-pilot seat, I looked out over the side of the small Cessna and saw the ground coming nearer. The wavering hills of the rolling landscape came into view, close enough to almost touch. My bright blue eyes stared out the window, tracing the small red dust paths made by human feet along that escarpment we were about to face. As the reality of the approaching ground set in, I felt a mix of anticipation and resolve. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the rolling hills rapidly drew closer, my mind wandered back to the day I fell to my knees the year before at 17. It was a moment of awakening, of clarity, of revelation. I knew I was alive for a reason. I wanted to find out what that reason was. Every day since then, I had been driven by a desire to fulfill my purpose out in the world. From an early age, I built 4 rooms in my mind to store and sort my memories and feelings. It was the only way I could cope as a child wrapped in daily trauma. These rooms were my sanctuary, my prison, and my escape. The first room, the cave, was where I retreated when I felt isolated and afraid. It kept me safe, but also shackled me to fears I could never face. The cave was quiet and cozy, surrounded by a forest of soft ferns and tall pine trees, which gave it a sense of freshness. The mountains were a backdrop, giving it a remote feeling, with only wildlife surrounding my childhood dog, Becky, and me. As the ground approached fast, I felt the familiar pull to the cave. The isolation of this journey mirrored the isolation I had felt inside. I was embarking on a challenge to grow my sense of self, but the shadows of my past were never far behind. We just hit an air pocket, she'll be right. The MAF's pilot voice echoed inside the headset. Joy flooded me, warm and electric. My laughter echoed in my ears, a bright spark against the steady drone of the engine. I looked over at him and nodded. Quite thrilling, isn't it? Then the nose dipped and the world tilted beneath us. One moment sky, the next earth rushing up. Bob's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered to the altimeter, then back to me, concern shadowing his features. The hill ahead, once a distant green hump, grew larger by the second, its scrubby crest speeding up like a freight train. I slid my hands from the carefree perch above my head and slammed them onto the arms of the co-pilot seat. My knuckles went white. The plane bucked, a low groan in its frame, and my pulse raced. Surreal, terrifying, thrilling, all at once. Easy, girl, Bob spoke to his plane. After a few minutes in silence, there, I found it. We've got a good stream now. Bob stared as the aircraft started moving forward on an even glide. As the plane levelled out, I gazed towards the endless horizon and declared to the vast empty sky, I want my life to have significance and meaning. I want to live as if these were the last days on earth, to offer hope to the hopeless and the voice to the voiceless. I want to live at all costs, even if that means it costs all. This became my purpose in life. The hum of the engines and the rhythmic thrum of the plane's vibrations grounded me, reminding me of the journey ahead. I focused on the scenery as we left the hills behind. It was pure jungle down there. Dense green splattering of various trees stretched as far as the eye could see, with little signs of human life. Occasionally, a splash of a remote village merged seamlessly with nature, its thatched roofs peeking through the canopy. The vibrant greens and the serene landscape belied the underlying struggles, creating both tranquility and tension. Welcome to Papua New Guinea, I thought, a place of contrasts where natural beauty coexists with a complex mix of challenges.
therapist and to some friends who know my full story going like, how many lives have you had? You've had like 5. And I'm like, yeah, I feel so totally 150 right now. But not only that, there was so many times in my life where I think in this book I have a chapter called More Than 9 Lives. And I have a period where I was about to die of a blood clot. And I had gone through all the lives that I had, all the near-to-death experiences that I had by that stage was 13. And I'm probably, I don't know how many, but I'm probably more than 20. But every single time something would happen in those times, something will save me. Like in that film when the letter arrived right at that point, and the photo and that reminder of a friend that, hang on, I am loved. I can do this, I can get through this. Another time, just someone I can only call an angel just appeared before me and stared into my eyes when I was homeless on the street at 16, and I've never had anyone actually ever in my life look into my eyes. And just that sheer of that man just staring into my eyes, or that supernatural experience, spiritual experience, that awakened me to, like, I'm supposed to be still here. And that continued through life in times where, like then I was, quite suicidal on the street because there were so many things going on. I wasn't dealing with my trauma from my childhood until my 30s, and when you go through all the risks that happen in overseas and building the bridge and all the things that I described, Papua New Guinea was nothing compared, 18 to some of the experiences that I had in Bangladesh, in the border of Congo, in Indonesia, that's probably about it. And I describe all those things that are happening while I'm in aid work. Near-death experiences that were out of my control, but I was always saved. And then there was times where I knew that I had to keep on going every day. That purpose that I read out in that chapter in the beginning when I was on that assessment, I just knew that was my hope and determination to keep on living. This is why I have to keep on going, because this is my calling in life. This is my purpose. This is the reason why I've been saved from all these deaths through that time. And then what comes out when I start writing Climbing the Bridge, which is when I get to the military. And I finished my police career as a chaplain and helping people in trauma, and my purpose moved more into the trauma space. And then I went into the military, and I loved serving in the military. And that was my family now. As you probably could tell, that I haven't really had a family. So the Navy is now my family, and I had some wonderful experiences in submarines, wonderful experiences with the chaplain, also chaplain that's here today. And then I also went through my own trauma in the Navy. And that is what I've realised recently is in that purpose statement I had, those words really internally lived in me. It said, and it will cost me all. And it cost me all from that time in the military when similar trauma happened, similar to my childhood, and the family being taken away, medically discharged, taken away. Now I have to build my life again. My identity was wrapped in my purpose about who I was, and I just felt like everything had been taken away. And some of what Carolee said in an introduction, my health and everything like that, the last decade just fighting for my life again. But every time, again, something will always say to me to say, no, you're not going anywhere, no, like, you've still got something, a purpose to do. And in Climbing the Bridge, I'll reveal more about how my purpose is changing and shifting right now, actually, in my life, and evolving into something else, because that purpose has now completed. I have had it cost all, but I've now moved into in a very similar space, but just so precious. In the end of building the bridge, I talk about a garden room, another room I had in my mind, and it came my psychotherapy in the last chapter, and I just talk about what it is to be in this garden, because it was a very precious part of my healing, is to integrate our little selves that have gone through trauma into our adult self. And this is where I met little Mel. Our little selves have got so much wisdom, and it's wonderful to be able to meet our little selves and talk to them and hear that wisdom and be able to integrate some of that into our own lives. You know, I fought a lot back then. I did a lot to get through what I did. And you just learn so much in a different way, rather than just seeing through trauma and seeing what you've gone through. You see it in a slightly different way. And in this garden room, I've got to describe it as the most beautiful nature scene you'll ever experience. I have a fence around it, so nobody can get in. And it's got all the different colours possible, of everything possible, in trees and flowers. It's got mountains to the eye can see. It's got a waterfall that's coming over the escarpment. There's birds everywhere. There's all the most amazing animals, excepting spiders and snakes. But all the other animals. And one of the first things that happen when I come into the room in my mind and I'm meditating and I'm feeling little Mel, is that she always comes up with me. She's wearing a white dress, and she comes up with her closed cupped hands, and she puts them over mine, and in her hands she opens them, and there's this purple butterfly just sitting right in my hands. And we cut them together and we wait for it to fly off. That's our first ritual. And then we play on the swings for a while, because I never got a chance to ever play as a child or play with other people, because I didn't want children to come home and be where my dad was. So that's always a lovely thing to do, just to play, have a laugh, And then my most favourite is then to sit on the escarpment and just listen to her wisdom. And we point out things in the sky, things that we could see. And that integration is starting. My therapist wanting, I want little Mel to come out with you and start to integrate you in an adult now. And I'm like, no, I'm protecting her. She's not coming out of my mind. She's staying here. And at the time, that makes sense. When you read my book, you go, oh yeah, because, the family, like you'll see in that extended travel that I've done, the family started to do some threats. This life is being taken away from me. I'm being locked away. They're trying anything to make me silent. And I'm trying anything to tell my truth. And so this book is so important to me, because it's the first time that I've been able to say, there is my truth. No more you telling me what it is or telling anybody else what it is. This is my truth. And that has helped me then to now go feel safe for her to come out. And that's probably where climbing the bridge might end. Not sure. But the most beautiful thing out of that is my purpose is evolving, is that I'm no longer living from my trauma. I'm living from my truth.